What you are about to read has many implications. At the very least, the authors ask that you consider it symbolic. For those of you whose lives have been touched by the abduction phenomenon, perhaps it is much more than symbolic and is very, very real. Whether symbolic or literal, the material presented in this book is aimed at bridging a gap that lies between the scientific and the intuitive. This book is a combination of narrative, channeled material, and first-hand accounts. Many individuals distrust, dislike, or fear channeled material and may judge it prematurely. The authors ask that you read it not because it is or it isn't channeled. Read it because the material presents an alternate point of view. Our sources never claim they have the truth. They claim they have information that is meant to be taken as information-only data to be added to the collective human understanding. The material presented in this book is channeled by co-author Lyssa and is edited only for grammatical and structural reasons. The transcripts are taken from either public or private sessions focusing on the abduction phenomenon. The sources of the channeled material are described below. Lyssa began channeling in 1985 and was trained formally by a highly respected channel in Los Angeles. Her channeling process has been unique in that she has been committed to pushing her abilities to their limits into realms perhaps as yet unexplored. It is because of her willingness to stretch her ability that some of this information has been obtained. In 1986, she began the deliberate choice of developing her channeling ability in order to access the quality and depth of information that is presented in Royal Priest Research's first book, The Prism of Lyra, and now in Visitors from Within. The channeling process is simple. Lyssa puts herself into a meditative state in which her personality disconnects from her normal perception of reality. Another consciousness links energetically and telepathically with her brain and then uses it as a translation device for the concepts discussed. In no way is she taken over by another entity. It is entirely a cooperative process between Lyssa and the entity. It can be discontinued at any time by the choice of the channel. When the session is completed, Lyssa retains only a dreamlike memory of what has transpired. While in trance, the entities through Lyssa are questioned by co-author Keith Priest and/or various other individuals attending the private or public gathering. The audience questions are in italics and the channeled responses are in normal text. In no way is it necessary for the reader to believe the entities are who they say they are. It is also unnecessary for the information to be accepted verbatim. Many will agree with the information presented, and many will disagree. The presentation of all facets of the subject matter is necessary for a coherent and complete understanding of the whole picture. There are several entities who are channeled by Lyssa in this book. We describe them below because they each have different personalities that will be reflected in the way they present their material. Germain. Germain considers himself to be a non-physical group consciousness. He claims that he represents a future integrated version of the galactic family, of which we on Earth are a part. He often channels about extraterrestrial history, and he was responsible for a large portion of the information in Royal Priest Research's first book, The Prism of Lyra. He chose the name Germain because in English it means coming from the same source. There is no connection with Saint Germain. The term he is used in reference to Germain for convenience only. Germain is actually a group and refers to itself as we. Sasha. Sasha claims to be a physical female from the Pleiades. She is about 5 feet tall, with light brown shoulder-length hair and large light brown almond-shaped eyes. She calls herself a cultural engineer and specializes in opening contact with planets who are ready to enter the global community. She has had contact with other extraterrestrial races as well as our own, and provides much information about the relationship between different species and the evolutionary patterns of developing planets. Bashar. Bashar claims to be a physical male from the Essasani species. The name Bashar is a word that has several meanings. The man, Arabic, the messenger, Armenian, and commander, Arabic. He chose that name to reflect several facets of his personality. The Essasani species can also be described as a hybrid species that is a combination of the Earth human and the Zeta Reticuli. Bashar is channeled by only few people on Earth and infrequently speaks through Lyssa. Harone. Harone claims to be a representative from the Zeta Reticuli species, the visitors. In his work, he is responsible for coordinating some of the genetic research projects the Zeta Reticuli are conducting. Bringing through channeled material from a Zeta Reticuli entity is quite challenging. The more one delves into the Zeta Reticuli mind, the more it may become odd that Harone, a Zeta, appears to be using quite good English. This is not the case. The Zeta Reticuli do not use English. Their natural telepathic patterns are not even similar to ours. Except for the exchange of the most basic ideas, dialogue between Zetas and humans using vocal English can be rather tricky for both the Zeta and the channel. Channeling them may be very disorientating at first. Lyssa often experiences spinning sensations that cause dizziness. Harone has spent a considerable amount of time refining his ability to communicate through Lyssa. One-on-one telepathic conversation with the Zeta Reticuli is more common, as seen in documented contact cases. But translating Zeta Reticuli telepathic thought patterns into human patterns and then putting them into English is another matter altogether. Harone allegedly employs a type of language translation computer that uses three-dimensional holographic values to assist in the choice of thought patterns most compatible with human thought. They are then translated by Lyssa's brain into near equivalents in English. Lyssa's awareness, her ego, is monitored as feedback by Harone and the computer in order to further refine the communication process. The listeners are also monitored for their conceptualization of the translation. Divisions of the human consciousness, such as the subconscious, are also monitored, so the impact of the communication can be better understood by the Zeta Reticuli. Harone claims he will sometimes have a humanoid present, such as a Pleiadian or an Essassani, to assist in the translation and understanding of the emotional aspects of human communication. The result of the translation into English is brought about by Lyssa, with a very thorough feedback monitoring system that the entities use in order to maintain the clarity of communication. We trust you will find a use for some of the information presented in the following pages. May a new and optimistic point of view about the visitors be cultivated, so that fear may ultimately be transformed into understanding.